Hi, friends. Welcome to the Mastermind Moments podcast.
Hosted by your pals, Josh and Sasha.
Join us during our weekly mastermind as we collaborate on how to make the most out of our lives.
Not only are we going to mastermind our careers, we're going to work on all areas of life together.
Let's do it. Listen in as we make the most of our mastermind moments.
Hi, hello.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Hello.
Doing well. Oh my God, good morning. So it's like, how early is it for you, Michael, out there?
Not too bad. It's about 9 a.m.
Okay.
Pacific Coast.
Okay. Not bad at all. For everyone listening, to paint the scene for you guys, we're here with Michael Quan, who's like a mentor, like uncle figure, who we also know from Tony Robbins Summer Camp, but more not on the participation side, on the volunteering side, because Michael's a bit older than us, so he did not participate with us, but we still love him and he's still like our pal. But it's so great to see your face and be able to connect, and we're really excited to chat.
So good to be here. We just had the GYLS program in here in San Diego, and so I was thinking about you guys very recently.
How'd it go this year?
I heard it was phenomenal. I actually didn't get to participate myself this year. I had to pull out last minute, but I had to hang out with some of our friends, and so that was nice. But I didn't actually
cool.
get to stay overnight this time.
Because typically you like actually go and do everything. Was this your first year not going?
It's been, I've done it probably a good 6 times, maybe 7 times, yeah. But this is the first year that I wasn't able to. Had some family health issues that we're dealing with, and so I couldn't commit. And so anyway, I still get to go hang out and all my friends, and it was good.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, I think the only people from our like squad who went were Mary and Adam. And if you guys haven't listened to Mary's episode, go back and listen. I think she was episode 13 or something. But yeah, she's the only one from our squad who actually went this year. So
Yeah, I got to hang out with Mary and Adam. It was great.
Nice.
oh, we love them so much. Anyway, we'll get into it. We'll get straight into it. So let's spin a wheel. The question is, do you have any career advice for someone starting out?
Ooh. Okay, so I do actually get this question quite frequently, and we're in a fascinating time right now, especially for young adults that are at the beginning of their careers, or just kids that are getting out of college or university. I think it's a very interesting time because the dynamic of our entire world, as far as technology goes, is really shifting. And my background is actually in technology. I started a tech company in my 20s. I grew that for a good 10 years, and then I exited. But what I'm really seeing now is this whole onset with AI. Of course, you've seen it, you've heard it, you've played with it, but you're starting to hear some rumblings of people actually not being able to get jobs because of AI, specifically software developers. They could be top of their class. But the challenge is that now that AI can really write a lot of the software, it's able to replace a lot of the entry-level jobs. And so why hire 10 new software developers if you've got one person that could do the job of 10 people? And so we're entering in a very interesting time where not only are we seeing that in technology, but in other areas as well. And so I guess my message to our younger generation is to really start to understand how to leverage AI. And what I mean by leveraging AI is, sure, you play with it. Yes, you get an answer from it, but go deeper. And what I mean by that is take some time to really understand how to create value for either a company or for yourself if you want to be an entrepreneur, so that you can deliver something of value to someone else or a marketplace using AI. Not just for the fun things, not just for getting an answer, but understanding how can you use it to better educate yourself and then create a better output for other people. I think that's my biggest advice to people, is because if you don't adapt, you will get replaced by someone using AI, not necessarily the AI itself, but someone that's using AI. So I'd prefer that too.
Yeah, you have to use AI or AI is going to use you for sure. So if you say go deeper, do you just mean go in there? And if I'm going to go deeper, like what does that actually mean?
Yeah, great question. So when I say go deeper, that means getting your hands dirty. That means playing with it. And so even for myself, I'm using it every single day, of course, just for simple things, research, things of that nature. But I'm also using it to do my accounting. I'm using it to help me to create scripts, to create YouTube channels, to create avatars of myself digitally. And the reason why that's so important right now is because in the future, we're not just going to follow influencers. We're going to be following AI influencers, meaning that it's actually not a person, right? Because it's going to be indistinguishable at some point. Now, we're not quite there yet, although there's probably a handful of people that have figured it out, but we're not that far away. I'd say in another year or two, you're going to start seeing a proliferation of AI bots that look like humans. And the reason why we have to be aware of this is that if you control that AI, right, you can put out, let's just say 100x amount of content versus an actual creator that's out there creating. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still going to be a segment of market for people that are creating naturally. There's always going to be that. However, there's also going to be another segment that's really dominated by just people being able to iterate that much faster. And what I mean by that is, let's just say if I put out an AI content piece, right, on social, and I have 100 different tries to see if something goes viral, and I put it out on a sub channel, and then I figure out what works, then I can take it to my main channel and throw it in there. And so that's where I'm saying we want to work smarter rather than harder. And that's really the crux of, I think, how I lived my life over the many decades, is really trying to ride that wave of, working smart instead of harder. Don't get me wrong, it's great to work hard. However, if you can get the same outcome without necessarily doing all the hard work, I say do the efficient thing.
Out of interest, for people who know very little about AI, their extent of knowledge of AI is pretty much ChatGPT, very base level. Where would you say, is there a good education piece? Is there a sort of a good starting point to learn about it?
Yeah. It's interesting with ChatGPT. One of the things that a lot of people do is they just ask it questions and they get answers back. But you can really go a lot deeper and have it educate you. Really use it. There's a new mode that's called education mode or tutor mode or something like that. And you can throw in very specific topics and it'll actually teach you in a manner that works for you. So some of us are visual, some of us are auditory, some of us are kinesthetic. And you can actually frame it to ChatGPT to create you lessons that meet your type of learning style. And so you can constantly ask it to teach you new things that are interesting to you. And so I constantly use it to teach. I have conversations with ChatGPT on the voice mode, but I also type into things as well. And not to necessarily plug myself right away, but I actually literally just started a channel called michaelquan.ai specifically to teach people about artificial intelligence at that next level. How do you take just the basics and then really enhance it to using it in real life? And so this is going to be documenting my journey of using it and the nonprofit that I created that teaches kids about how to learn about entrepreneurship. I use it for some of my other side hustles, real estate investing, personal finance, personal development across the board. And so I want to show people real life use cases of how to apply it so you can enhance your life in a real practical way.
Nice. That's very
It's
cool.
like,
Where can we
it's
find
so
it?
cool.
Sorry, Sasha. Where?
It's michaelquan.ai.
michaelquan.ai,
That's
and
just
that'll
online.
pop you over
Yeah.
to my
Okay.
YouTube channel.
Cool.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. I feel like I need to look at it right now because I'm sitting here thinking, we'll get into it later. My to-do list is like insane. I have 4 going right now. And I'm like, why did I not put all of this into AI and ask it what the best way to optimize my time, the best way to delegate, the best way to all of that? Like, why did I not do that instead of stressing out?
Yeah. And if I could touch on that point really quickly, I'm no different sometimes, Sasha. I will find myself doing something and then I'll stop mid task and I'll be like, what am I doing? I could literally throw this in AI and have already had this done. And so part of that process of us learning and integrating into our lives is changing some of the habits that we have and getting out of some of the identity that we've created for ourselves. Because sometimes for us, we're like, we want to just get things done, right? We want to control our destiny. But the irony is that sometimes we can get in our own way and not let the technology help us to get the outcome. And so taking some time just to even pause and be like, you know what? Let me just take a step back. How could I have done this better? Could I have done this better? And in the future or right now, how can I use the AI to get me accelerated to where I want to go so that I can keep doing what I really want to get done?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like it's the advice I need to hear right now too. Just like to remind myself to go in and use AI, use it as a tool because I use it in some ways, but not in others. And I definitely think I could be optimizing more of my workflow for sure. Josh, do you have an answer to career advice starting out?
I think we were literally talking about this yesterday about where my career is at the moment and how I've got to this point. And I think for me, it's always been about perseverance. And I think so today was actually the major exam results in the UK. So hundreds of thousands of kids across the country have had life-changing results today. And there's various bits of advice flying around from different people. And I think the most important thing when you leave school or fresh out of college is not to get bogged down in job applications and in rejections, and just to persevere, because my girlfriend has just been going through exactly this. She's been applying for dozens, hundreds of jobs, and most of them are not coming back to her. The ones that do, it's a very basic rejection, or she gets a job interview and then the interview, immediate rejection. It's so difficult to keep that kind of positive frame of mind, but it's so, so important. It's more important than anything, arguably. And I went through that when I left school. I didn't go to college. I went straight into work. And if I hadn't managed to keep that positive mindset, but also keep the people around me who pushed me and kept me at that certain level, there's no way that I would have ended up where I am today. So I think that's the most important thing for me, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's definitely trying everything. Like, just get your hands dirty, try stuff, and then also take note of what you like and what you don't like in each situation, because then it helps you curate what you want moving forward. Like, I just remember internships I did as like a college student, and be like, oh, well, I liked this part of the internship and I hated this part of the internship, or I wish I learned more of this, or I liked working with this kind of team, or I hated this kind of boss. And like really just taking note and taking stock of what you're liking and disliking and what's interesting to you, because otherwise you're stuck in a situation where you don't like something. But the whole point is just trying something, failing at something, trying something, and taking note of what's cool and what's not and what's interesting. Because otherwise, not necessarily about the job, but sometimes it's about learning about how you interact within the job and like what you want moving forward. Like almost, and something we talked about yesterday too, like designing your life and like how you want that to look. Yeah. Oh my God, amazing. All right, let's get into the meat of the episode. Michael, what's happening in your life? What's going on? What's up?
Oh man, life right now is pretty incredible. I'm not going to lie. It's been a huge blessing. And I feel like a lot of that has come from exactly what you guys were describing in terms of really positioning yourself and your career to try lots of different things. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do, right? In my life. And the great thing about that is that you're constantly learning about who you are and who you want to become. And so with the wheel of life, of course, we get to look at all the different elements and the different areas of our life to see how we can potentially optimize certain areas or see maybe where we're falling short in certain ones. And so for me, sometimes it feels like a little bit of plate spinning, right? You've got the relationships over here, you got your contribution to spirituality over here, you've got your work and career over here. And what's interesting is that as I get older, I realize that they're all interconnected in a certain core way, right? With the core of our identity of who we are and how it flows out to each of them. And before I would just really dig in a bit. Okay, I really got to focus on career, work aspect, and then the relationships would suffer and other things would suffer because I was so focused in one area. And what I'm realizing now as I get older is that it's not necessarily about plate spinning. It's about making sure that you leave enough, I think, time and energy in your life so that you don't feel overwhelmed. And I've really redefined my idea of success. What it means for me to have success now at this point in my life is having that balance. And so at the moment, I feel like for the most part, things are relatively even. A lot of times in my life, they've been off kilter. Like I said, sometimes when I was running my company, work was definitely offloaded. It was jagged over here. It was very high, but then over in relationships, it was very low, or I wasn't paying attention to other things in my life that I knew was important, but I wasn't actually living in that place. And so for me at this point, where really focus is really trying to, well, first and foremost, have fun, which is why I think we all get along together. Because if you're not having fun, then why the heck are we doing it? I think.
Yeah, true.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's one of the big values, is having fun, right? So if you're having fun, specifically with work and career, right, then you have enough energy to still interact with people, still have fun, still contribute, still be able to educate, still be able to grow. And I think that kind of percolates out into all other areas of life. Now, I would say the one area of my life where I got alone for quite some time is probably the work, actually, and career focus. And you know what, to be honest, I'm okay with that. But here's the thing, and this actually does apply to, I think, some of the younger listeners as well. Once you trade, I think, your expectations of what you want, that's not to say that you don't design your life. I think you should design your life. You should create some sort of structure and go after those goals, and you should figure out how to get those outcomes, but not to the point where like it's like life or death, and your identity and whether you're successful or not is hinged upon that outcome. Because as you just said, Sasha, is that part of learning who you are in the process of what you like and you don't like. I think that's literally the essence of our lives. And when we start to explore those different avenues, like you did, Josh, right? You came out of college and you started working, right? And you learned so much about yourself. To be honest, that is like the juice of life, of really starting to understand these different pies, right, on the wheel of life. And I think when we release ourselves from expectation and we start to live in appreciation, then all of a sudden this wheel of life gets very rounded, because everything is either serving us in some form or fashion, right? Even if we feel limited in one area, if you can find appreciation for that limitation or what you think is a limitation at that moment, you can fill that cup literally in an instant by being, oh, this is actually a huge opportunity for me to grow here. And then it's going to overflow in this area, right? And so as you spread some energy into there, it can actually overflow. And so before, again, I used to think that it's limited, like, right? Because if we put time here, then we can't put time here. But the truth is, if you take really a mindset of not just like a finite amount of pie to have, but you take more of an infinite focus, I feel like you can have it all, to be honest. And maybe that's a cop out, but I feel like you can have it all if you change that mindset.
That is such a beautiful mindset to have as well. I think it's in our nature as human beings to want more. I think it's just how we operate, how our brains operate, is that I have this, but I want more. And so if work's going really well, I can say, well, work's going really well, but my physical health or my mental health, my relationship isn't going very well as a result. But if you have that more wholesome, overarching belief that even if work is going well and one area is going less well, there's appreciation to be found in every single area, which helps it balance out in a way. Gratitude is the attitude. And I think living with an attitude of gratitude is such an important shift. And to be honest, I've never really thought of it in that way, in terms of applying it to the wheel of life, and how, for example, right now, one thing I was going to talk about a bit later on was my relationship and how that seems to be suffering at the moment. But actually, if I really think about it, it's not suffering, it's just suffering in comparison to the other areas. And so there is still so much to be grateful for. And if I really focus on the appreciation and the gratitude, actually it goes from maybe like a 6 up to a 9. It makes such a big difference. So I think that's a really nice way of looking at actually the wheel of life.
You know what I love that you said about that, Josh, is in the moments where you feel like, yeah, work is pulling you, right? And it's putting the tension on your relationship. Because you have the tension, you start to understand each other that much better, right? And that actually creates a bond that is inseparable. If you can get past that, right? That's like something that like you can't have unless you've had that stress put onto the relationship. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, I was thinking like even in the wheel of life, if things are not going so well, if you're looking at like an actual wheel and, you know, some areas are not so great, you're still learning something from that kind of hardship. Like in the same way that if your relationship is not going, maybe like your perception of it is that's not going great, but at the same time, this challenge is making your relationship stronger. You could even say that, like, example, career-wise for me, like I feel so stretched thin and so stressed out about everything. But at the same time, like if I zoom back and look at it, it's okay, well, like I'm growing a lot and learning a lot from this like stress and like this experience that in the end it's like contributing to me like raising up all areas of life. It just might not be at the same time, you know? I never really thought about it this way either. It's so interesting because it's also, well, the thing that was you said, Joshua, was really interesting was that if you have a number, but then if you change your like your mindset around it, your number changes, which you could say about everything, literally. Like that's the whole point. But I didn't think about it that way either. If you're maybe like when you do a reflection exercise, what mental state are you in as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about perspective.
Yeah. So what's like happening as far as like relationship goes? We can get into it. Do you just feel like you're working a lot and like having a difficult time managing it, or what's happening?
It's a mix of things. Obviously, I was telling you yesterday how well my relationship is going, and for the most part, it is. So, for context, Michael, my girlfriend, is moving in with me in a couple of weeks, and literally, or next week actually. So, really soon. It's a big step. I've never lived with a partner before. It's a huge move. And so, just to acknowledge the relationship is going really well, but there are certain things that are detracting from it at the moment. I think there is past trauma actually from both of our sides that is really taking its toll on the day-to-day conversations that we're having. And I'll give you an example, and she wouldn't mind me talking about this. With me, I think I've got some past trauma surrounding abandonment and the fear of abandonment, but also in line with just feeling like everything I say to my partner or to a loved one isn't received with love and is found annoying or responded to with a type of aggression. And I think that stems from my childhood, from the way that my mum used to talk to me. And again, I'm not taking anything away from her. She's an incredible mother, but there are certain things that the way she spoke to me that's kind of stuck with me in my adult life. And it is now showing up in my relationship where my girlfriend, as Sasha, you met her last month, she is just a ray of sunshine. She is just a really pure soul, doesn't have a bad bone in her body, but still, regardless of that, there are certain things where I'm talking to her and she'll ask me a question. It happened today. She asked me a question about what I meant by what I said, and I took it as her going for me and accusing me of something, when in reality, that's not what she meant at all. And it caused an argument, and similar is happening going the other way. And I think that the communication is all over the place at the moment. We're not seeing each other eye to eye because of past trauma of different sorts. And yeah, it's causing issues, which definitely need to be ironed out, because I'd say the last couple of weeks in particular have been tough with that in mind. And it shows up every now and then. It's not constant. Things will be going really well for a while, and then suddenly something will switch in both of our minds and it will go really bad for a couple of weeks. But that's where we are at the moment, and it's not causing friction to the point of a breakup. But I think if it was to continue and not get any better consistently, then that could be the direction it's heading. And we both know that. We've both discussed that, which sounds crazy when I just said we're moving in together in a week. But as I say, generally speaking, things are amazing. It's a great relationship, but there are just core issues, and they're pretty major issues that need to be ironed out.
All right. So there are core issues and you feel like, so communication is just off right now is what I'm.
It's, yeah, communication and just misunderstandings is basically
Okay.
what it is. Yeah.
And do you feel we definitely have the tools and strategies in place to catch them as they're coming? But like when you're in the moment with a partner and you're in the moment in a conversation, it's so hard to wait, hold on, let me use my tools in my toolbox to make sure I'm communicating properly. But do you feel like there are ways that have worked for you in the past that could iron out this kind of communication ripples or something like that? Or do you feel like there's a way to strategize? And if there is a way, what is the way to strategize around like optimizing your communication with your partner? Should we just ask AI?
Yeah. With what you just said, I think for me, the big thing that's always worked, or when things have been going well, is because I've been able to slow things down in my mind and actually think, and instead of reacting, respond. So it's not always easy to do that. It's not always easy to slow my mind down, to slow my thoughts down. And a lot of the time, which has been happening, I think when things are going badly, it's a case of I am reacting and not responding. But it's difficult. It's difficult, I think, to live in that mindset for the whole time and to actually really slow things down consistently to the point where every single time I'm able to catch it before it blows up. So, I mean, I thought today was going to be better just because I told you yesterday I spent 90 minutes meditating yesterday. I spent another sort of 25 minutes meditating this morning. I'm really in my meditation phase right now and feeling very calm and peaceful and gentle. But then even in the heat of the moment, it's hard to control it. And I'm hoping that, as I said, I've only just stepped into this phase. The more I meditate, the more I'm able to practice calming my mind and doing it on demand as well. I think that's a big thing that you take away from meditation. I think the better it will become. The easier I'll be able to catch it, the more I'll be able to respond and not react. And I think those are the cool things that have worked before, and it's just about implementing consistency now.
Michael, what do you think? Because you've been with your wife for quite a while. Like, how do you guys manage like these kind of miscommunications that come up?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, Josh, I commend you for at least even being conscious of the problem or the habit or the pattern that's coming up for you, right? And it's getting triggered. And you can at least intellectually be able to see it. When you're in the moment, certainly it can be challenging, included. I've been married now 20 years. We've been together for 27 years. And over that time, my wife and I have gone through different cycles of our relationship. And certainly during times of high stress, so this could be working or having children, having 2 kids, whatever it may be, it can certainly trigger some things in the moment that are not optimal for either of us. And you go at it. And I think one of the great things, though, is you really have an opportunity after maybe there's some sort of a blow up. And so maybe things are said, maybe things you're not proud of. You put yourself in a state that's not very empowered, right? But the great thing about that is that you always have an opportunity after the fact to go back and repair. And I think even where you're at, Josh, and why it's so great I think for you guys at this point in your relationship is that if you take that time, once you're out of that spot of you're just like, I know what I need to do, but I'm not going to do it because you're not going to be there forever, right? And so whether you use just time to allow you to kind of get out of that mode, right? Or you use some Tony tools, right? And you shift your physiology, or you go walk on the beach and do a meditation and it resets you. Once you get to that place of better understanding and love, then you can really come back to the conversation. And I say it's an opportunity for repair, but also for nurturing, right? And it's really great because then you get on the same page. She knows what your true intention is, right? And she's not going to necessarily judge you for that one instant in time that, you weren't perfect. You're human, right? We're all human, right? And we all have these failings. But if we take that opportunity after the fact to really go in, identify it, and then do our best the next time to try to intervene. And sometimes, to be honest, again, I've been dealing with this in some form or fashion just because as a married man, I have this opportunity to grow a year. But even in the moment when, let's just say, you find yourself slipping, right, into this state that's not empowered, and you're like, no, I'm right, or whatever, or you meant this, right? And you know that the other person intended this, even though they may not. Even if you had that inkling of consciousness where you're able to step out and be like, okay, I can see this happening. And even if you fail and continue to go down that path, right? It's these little steps that you take. Okay, first is getting conscious. The next time it might be, okay, you know what? Let me just take a step and take a deep breath. That could be a step in the right direction. And then it becomes, okay, taking a deep breath, creating some sort of a pattern interrupt for both of you. For me, one of the biggest things is I know that if I take a step back, take a deep breath, I put my hand on my heart, a lot of times in my head, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. But if I force myself to do that, like there's nothing, I can't stop but like to slow down and get more heart-centered. And that will basically pull me back to center. And so again, not to say that we're going to always get it right, but if we give ourselves that opportunity to grow, I think that's ultimately the gift in all this, where you start to understand yourself better, but also your partner starts to understand you better. You're able to connect. And once she's able to forgive you and you're able to forgive yourself and you're able to do back for her what she's able to do for you, again, that's where the connection really starts to grow in this beautiful way. And again, it doesn't mean that it's not messy, because it will be messy and you're not going to get it right every single time. But if you're able to just intentionally make those incremental pieces, then I think you're definitely around the right track, Josh.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think baby steps in the right direction. And I think we've definitely been taking those steps. A couple of things you mentioned are things that we're implementing. To be completely honest with you, a lot of these misunderstandings, they happen over text. Surprise. Text and voice message, and not actually physically in person. In person, things are great, which I think is partly why when she moves in, it's going to be a bit of a game changer for the relationship and take it to another level. But then, of course, that may come with other issues, which we'll soon see. But then we iron those out. And as you say, it's baby steps, towards incremental steps towards the bigger goal. And eventually we will get to a point where we're much stronger because we've learned along the way. And she said something to me the other day about, I can't wait for the day when we just completely stop arguing. And I said, that's going to be a great day. However, I think arguments are a very important part of a relationship because you can learn from them, right? And as long as you're constructive and both of you are in a position where even in the heat of the moment, after the heat of the moment, you can communicate, they're really important because you grow from it, you learn from it. And if you're not put in those difficult positions, then it's difficult to grow and understand what these difficult situations are going to be. So a couple of things that we've implemented very recently, actually, because these things happen over text, when we then see each other that evening, because we see each other most evenings, so it's usually during the day while we're both working, it might turn into an argument or a misunderstanding of some sort. And I've made a rule that I don't want any tension going into the evening. So when I go to meet her and she sees me walking up the road, I do a stupid dance and it makes us both laugh. And the tension is completely gone from the air, right? It's just a change of physiology, a change of state. And then there's another rule that we've had that when we argue in person, if we argue in person and there's just bad air between us and we're not talking to each other, we have to grab each other's hands, and the first one to kiss the other one's hand wins. They win nothing, but it's just a way to change that physiology, to change the state, and to just completely clear the bad air.
It's like a pattern interrupt.
Exactly, that's
sure.
exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. So small things like that, and we're getting better. We're getting stronger every day. It's just, I think, recently the last couple of weeks have been particularly tricky, but we go through those phases and we come back stronger from them.
Yeah. It's like you go through or you grow through what you go through is like my new favorite phrase right now. And also it's funny that she says she can't wait for the day you guys stop arguing, because I don't think that day in a relationship ever comes. It's not about stopping the arguments. It's about how you argue. Do the arguments turn less into arguments, more into conversations? Like, I think that's probably more of the goal. And then it's also just like one of the, I don't know like where I heard this quote, but it's like one of my favorite quotes about a relationship where it's not you versus them, it's you and them versus the problem, because you guys are on a team. So it's a matter of sometimes of reframing that. But like when you're in the moment, it's tough, obviously, but it's also just right now, as she's about to move in, you're about to enter this new phase of your relationship. I would encourage you guys to sit down and be really intentional about what you want this next chapter to look like and your intentions going into it. And like, obviously the logistics stuff, I will say it until I'm blue in the face. Sit down and talk about what chores you like, what chores you don't like pet peeves when you live with people, because you don't want roommate problems to become relationship problems for sure. Like, don't do that. But then it's just sorting it all through and getting it all done. And at the same time, I don't know, it takes time and it takes work, but I think you guys can do it. But I would definitely sit down and take a moment to reflect and be intentional about it, because it is a new chapter in your relationship and things will change. Like, we don't know if it's going to be good or bad. Like we saw with me, like it was a case of once you move in with the partner, like you learn things about the partner that literally break the relationship. So sometimes you don't know things about someone until you move in with them, or you could be like, oh wow, this person is like the best roommate ever on top of being the best partner ever. Cool, I just want to hang out with them until I drop dead. You know what I mean? So it's just learning about this stage right now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. And we are growing through it. And it may feel particularly tough right now. But again, I think I wouldn't say my relationship is particularly lower score when it comes to the wheel of life. Right now, I'd probably say it's maybe a 7.5. But if I really focus on the fact that this is just a hard time that we're going through, and it's just a hard phase, it's not even a time, it's literally been a week or two where it's being a little bit bumpy, but there is so much to be grateful for in the relationship. And as I say, and this is why I say that why she said that she can't wait for the day that we stop arguing, because she's the least argumentative person in the world. She told me when we first got into the relationship, she was like, I've never argued with a partner before. And I believe it. I believe it. She said the only other partner she argued with, the relationship ended badly. But I believe it because she's not argumentative. She's just such a pure soul that doesn't mean any harm at all. And so really, if the arguments start, is, as I say, it's because of misunderstandings. And actually, the relationship is so good. There's so much to be grateful for. So yeah, no, we're getting through it. As I say, we're going through it, as you said, Sasha, and we're going to grow through it. So it's something that just has to happen.
Hell yeah.
And I think arguments are a sign of passion, right? You probably got some great polarity there.
Absolutely, 100%, 100%. I'm curious, actually. So you've been with your wife for such a long time. Do you have key pointers towards a happy and successful relationship?
One thing that I would share with you, and for anyone that's listening that is in a relationship, one of the things that really was a game changer in the last several years was we started doing a gratitude walk. And what that is that after the end of her day, my wife is a high school biology teacher. So she comes home relatively late because she loves her job and she's definitely committed. So sometimes she'd come home pretty late. And what would happen is that she would give her all, right, to school. And then she'd come home and she'd be completely drained and just start telling me everything about her day that went wrong. And I want to be a supportive husband, and I'm at home. I have the privilege and freedom to do what I want when I want. And so I want to be supportive for her. And I would do the best that I could to really listen to her. But occasionally, sometimes because like she's just focused on the things that were going wrong, it would pull me down, right? Pull my energy state down, and it would end up in fights and arguments and whatnot. And so what we decided to do at a certain point was to do a pattern interrupt and get intentional with what we want to do with that time. So instead of basically giving her just the freedom to just share everything that went wrong, and I definitely wanted to give her that opportunity so that she could air it. I said, okay, you can definitely do that. But before we do that, I'd love to go on a gratitude walk. And so what that means is that we literally take a mile walk, a loop around our neighborhood, and we both have to just share what was great about that day. Now, after that point, she can tell me anything and everything that went wrong, and it's totally fine. But what happens is that when you start focusing on everything that went well in the day, then you're naturally going to stop focusing on things that didn't go well. And you're going to start to appreciate the things that, helped her along the way or whatnot. I'm going to be in a better state. She's going to be in a better state. And then we're able to share about our days in a very positive manner. So I share that with you, Josh, because as you move in, there's going to be days that, maybe you're stressed or she's stressed, depending on what's happening. And different people are going to be at different states at different times, right? It's rare that you're exactly the same spot at the same time. And when you are, things are phenomenal. Enjoy those, right? But not always like that. So when you find yourself at different places, if you already have some sort of a routine that takes you into a gratitude walk, then it resets everybody to the kind of the same level. And then not only that, you get some exercise, right? You change your physiology, you change your focus, and you're putting yourself in a prime position to connect at the level that you would like to. And so it's very intentional to do that gratitude walk. And now we've been doing it for probably 6 years or so. But I would say so far it's like it saved our marriage to the point where it just changed the dynamic of everything. And then now I can literally be able, after that, if she does have some additional things that she needs to air, I have the energy to support her in full masculine strength, whatever you want to call it. And I'm fine, right? And I'm not going to dip because we're already at that level. And is a perfect? No, but I would say 90% of the time it's phenomenal. So I would share that one strategy, especially as you move in together, you're going to be learning things about each other. And it's just a time to reflect. And the great thing about that too, Josh, is you could be like, I'm so grateful that, I got pissed off because I had to do the dishes today because I didn't know that you hated doing the dishes as much as I did. And then you guys can joke about it, right? It's something that it just opens the air, right? And then you can have a good chuckle about it, laugh about it, come up with a solution intellectually, right? Implement it and kind of move on your day. And hopefully that'll resolve that. Maybe it goes on, but at least it puts you in the right frame of mind so that you can have a better conversation instead of get into a bad place where it's unproductive.
Yeah, nice. I like it. I like it. And I think it's the positive framing, and if you're focusing, as you said, on the good things that have happened, the bad things feel so much smaller. If you really, because where focus goes, energy flows, right? Things you focus on, they magnify. I watched a video yesterday on how to talk to the universe, and because the universe, it depends how you view it, but it could be your mind, it could be God, however you view it. But one of the points in the video was exactly what I just said, that the thoughts that you focus on, the words that you focus on, the words that you say the most in your head out loud, that is what the universe hears, right? So if you have a thought passing through your mind, a negative thought, and you catch it in your mind focusing on it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Whereas if you catch that or you let it go and you reframe it with something positive, something to be grateful for, that then gets bigger and bigger. And the negative thought, the negative thing seems so much smaller. And I think that's so important in any area of life, but especially in a relationship. If you're focusing on the good things in the relationship and the good things that have happened in your day when you're living together, I think that's such a beautiful mindset to have and so important.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, that's me. Sasha, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's something Michael, you're also catching us back-to-back recordings. We recorded yesterday too. So we talked about yesterday my current state of drowning in overwhelm and stress, which is interesting that you're like, my goal is to just not feel overwhelmed and stressed. I think that's a great goal for me to have. I think right now I'm just caught in it with I'm only home for 1 week. My sister requested that I was home for only a week. And in that time, there was a lot of stuff I was putting off because I just came back from spending the summer in Europe. So I really embraced this French, work to live, not live to work.
I saw that. I was jealous.
Yeah, and it's I put off a lot. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna enjoy. If it doesn't need to happen right now, just put it off. And then I came home and I was like, oh shit, I put off all this stuff that needs to happen. And I have 1 week at home to prepare for Burning Man and get all my admin shit done, prepare for time off for work, and also just getting stuff sorted through for both of the podcasts and before I go completely off grid at Burning Man. So I am putting a lot of pressure on myself to get it all done right now, immediately before I go, which is not feasible or reasonable because I tend to do this and tend to stretch myself thin and put a lot of pressure on myself. But something I've been thinking about, and again, I can't tell if I'm being overly self-critical, which tends to happen sometimes, is something I've been thinking about a lot is my career aspect, because if I zoom out and look at the big picture of the wheel of life, right, my career looks on paper great. I have a 9-to-5 job that I really love, the team, the work is okay, whatever, but they enable me to do what I do. I have location flexibility, time flexibility. I get paid well enough. I definitely could be making more elsewhere, but climbing the corporate ladder has never really been my goal. So they full benefits, whatever. It's a perfect gig for right now. I've been with them 4 years. It's awesome. And they're getting to a point with me where they're like, well, you've been with us 4.5 years, since the beginning of the brand. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to take your career with our company? Anywhere you want to go, we'll take you there. And I'm like, I don't know. And that's kind of I haven't really been thinking about it because all of my career advancement efforts and energy have been going towards the podcast. And then I sit and look at the podcast, and I was watching a documentary about my favorite podcast the other night, and I was almost wanting to take notes and being wow, so this is what it takes to produce a podcast at this level to the level where I would want to sell it off or join a network or something like that. So this is the work that it's taking. And I was looking at both of these things and I'm like questioning, am I half-assing my work at my 9 to 5 and my work and my podcast because I'm doing both at the same time? Or is that also just because this year I'm also traveling full time and literally don't have the time or energy to do it all at once? I literally don't have it. I'm like, well, I should first of all delegate to AI, but second of all, like I don't want to just write it off of stopping one or minimizing one, because it's also just, this is just the nature of what's happening in my life right now, is that before I was managing both just fine because I was in a regular routine and I was stable and it was like easy. And I was also in my relationship, I was spending a lot of time by myself. So I had extra time and energy to put towards a business or put towards like my 9 to 5. And now I just feel like I'm stretched really thin. And I wonder, and it's something I'm thinking about, am I half-assing both of these things? Or is it like a season of life where I'm just need to get through as much like the work that I need to get through? And then once I have more of a steady like living situation, I can put in more energy and effort. I'm not really sure right now, but it's like kind of, that's where my head is right now. I'm questioning it all because I really enjoy doing both. And I don't really want to give up either. So I'm not really sure like where to go from here, really.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you looked out 5 years from now and you were able to look back on a successful learning journey over the last 5 years, what would have happened?
Well, it's funny because I feel like that it like came almost immediately. Like as far as the 9 to 5 goes, I would really love to be either more on the back end of it. Like I really want equity in the company, and I really would like, I don't know if it looks like being a part, like an investor or some sort of back end. Like I want to be a part of the growth of the company and the long-term success of the company because I really do believe in it and I really love it. And I'd like to be more on that side of the business. I don't know if I necessarily want to be working for them full time, but well, that kind of takes me to the other part. With the podcast, I would love to get it signed. My goal is to get it signed by a particular network. And right now I'm just like building out the content and building out like the actual like meat of what I would be selling. But I would love to be able to take that full time and have all my efforts towards that and get it signed to a network and do that full time. And then just do like equity and investing for my 9 to 5, like for that company instead. That's in 5 years. That's what I would love to happen.
Mm. So yeah, it sounds like you've got two very ambitious goals, which great goals, right? So kind of building equity in this brand that you're already working with, and then also the podcast. And you're trying to figure out, okay, are you spreading yourself too thin because you're trying to do both things? Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, basically. If I like both so much and I love doing both so much, like my 9 to 5 obviously I'm not quite as passionate about it. Like I'm not as passionate about the work, but the company itself, and like I feel really passionate about. It's just like that, doing customer experience. Okay,
Yeah.
it's fine, whatever. Like it pays the bills. It doesn't take up that much of my mental capacity, and I'm great at it. So why not keep doing it? But yeah, I do have like hefty ambitions in both. I think like when I need to sit down and like really think about what I want in the 9 to 5, at least in the next couple of years, to get me to the point of, because I've been asking for equity for years at this point,
Mhm.
and I'm even open to foregoing like a raise or foregoing like something else in order to get the equity. But it's also like I want to be able to come to the table and offer something in exchange. I can't
Agree.
just be like, I've been here
Yeah.
since the beginning, give me equity. Like I want to come to the table and be like, well, this is where I see the company going. This is where I see myself going within that. This is how I like plan on helping the growth of the company. Give me the equity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's definitely like hefty ambitions in both. I just don't see myself like picking one or the other. I'm like more passionate about the work for the
Yeah.
podcast and like not more passionate about the company for the company, but like I am really passionate about the brand and where it's going long term.
It's interesting that you say that because I've had similar challenges in the past, and I usually juggle about 5 projects at once. And you're right. I mean, you spread yourself too thin historically because you only have a finite amount of time and focus in a given day. And now this brings us full circle in the sense that, like, with AI, this is why I'm so excited about AI, right? I can actually do all of my projects simultaneously and still get the same outcome. So, for example, I also manage some real estate investments for a family, a corporation, actually 2 different corporations. One's like real estate, one's like investments and stuff. But doing those, like before it would have taken, say several hours a month, not a ton of time, but now I can literally do it in like half hour each because of AI, right? Putting in all of my stuff in AI and just getting out what I need, but I can still get the same outcome. And the reason why I share that with you is that I'm able to build my nonprofit, the Youth Entrepreneurship Summit. I'm able to do my AI stuff. I do some crypto stuff as well. I do my financial consulting, whatever it is, right? I got all these different pieces. But what I'm so excited is because as I build my AI infrastructure, including potentially a podcast in the future, I'm going to likely create a podcast that's likely not going to be me. And it's literally going to be my AI that has all of my thoughts and ideas, but it's actually not going to be me necessarily producing it physically in front of a microphone. Maybe there'll be some episodes where I'm doing that, but the majority of it's going to be done with AI. Have you guys ever listened to I think it's called Pump Club with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
No.
You gotta listen. This is one of the top podcasts by Arnold Schwarzenegger, but it's all AI generated. And no one actually realizes that it's AI generated. Incredibly popular podcast that's all done with AI. And again, the reason why I share that with you is it's a mind shift, right? Of what it used to take in order to produce something of quality that creates value for people. If you put in the hard work up front to build the systems and the processes, right? This is kind of like leadership 101, right? Building systems, right? Set it and forget it to a certain extent. You can never completely forget it, but you can set it, right? And then just touch it occasionally, right? Yeah. I think you could do both, Sasha. You could be an entrepreneur at your own company if you leverage AI to give something of value to the brand that you're creating, right? And you bring something to them. It doesn't mean that you're having to work harder or having to focus more, but you have to work smarter, right? Make sure that you are delivering the value to your company. And they're like, if you can do that, then sure, I'll give you equity. Maybe it's integrating some sort of a AI chatbot that integrates their brand, right? They can eliminate some sort of a support person that they would have had to need before. And all of a sudden,
what I did.
Okay, well, there you go, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so if you create those types of value pieces, right, and you quantify it, oh, well, I just saved you 50 grand a year. That saved you 60 grand, whatever it is, right? Okay, apply that to an equity position for me going forward. And so you can do that, right? And then if you get very AI focused, maybe even with some of the podcasting stuff, maybe not necessarily right away with the content creation, but even some of the processes, right? Of building a back end so that when you're done recording, it automatically transcribes everything. It takes all that data. It auto edits. They have now things where you can actually auto edit things. And
Descript. Oh my God, I love it. Right? You showed me that tool. It was amazing. I love my AI tools in Descript.
Right. It's crazy, right? But now you can actually create, other tools that tie into there potentially, and then push it out to the different platforms and whatnot, and really get it streamlined, right? So that you can really just focus on maybe content or whatever. So all that to say is that I think you are in a fascinating position where you can actually do both, but you're going to have to think about it and do it in a different way than you maybe thought about it before.
Yeah, I think I really do need to work on optimizing my time and efficiency because it's just too much logistically to manage right now. Like especially with the travel, like if travel was not involved in this, like I would be okay. But with the travel logistics, that's a whole other job of planning the next leg and organizing everything. So I think optimizing my time and giving that some time to take care of itself or do it before I think about jumping to conclusions. Like, I need to stop one or whatever, like stopping first and like actually trying to see, okay, what can I do to optimize my time? I'm going to write that down right now. Like the AI optimization, it needs to happen. It was so incredible to have you on. We're just about out of time anyway, but we should definitely go and do this again because this is like amazing, and we love talking to you, and definitely we'll have to mastermind more of what's happening in your life too. Like I know we didn't end up getting around to like actually chatting about what's going well, what's not going well in your life, but we should definitely do that like when we sit down and record again. But we love having you on. Yeah.
Anytime. Yeah, let me know, and we'll do this again.
Yeah, this was so insightful, so helpful. Oh my God. Oh, we love you so much. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
All right, guys. We'll catch you guys next week on the Mastermind Moments podcast. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow along on social media.
If you would like us to help you mastermind something in your life, please send us a message.
We'll see you next week on the Mastermind Moments podcast.